Welcome to FEO on the Air, the voice of the festivals and events industry in Ontario. This week, it's Festivals Helping Festivals SOS. Share our stories with your host, Marnie Lapierre.
Alrighty, Dave, do you want to take it away?
And thanks for everybody joining us on today's edition of FEO on the Air. I was so pleased when Aruba reached out to me about this podcast and the opportunity to bring our members together and to talk about the importance of the culinary aspects of all of our festivals and gatherings and events. And really, if you're not doing it currently, it's certainly a way to build your festival. And it's an option to think about off-season things as well. And as we get through the conversation today, we'll dive into those. So on behalf of all of us at FEO, welcome to today's presentation. Thank you to the culinary tourism industry. Thank you to Aruba and the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Gaming for the invite. And we're really looking forward to an open, honest, and hopefully a really beneficial conversation for everybody. So we're really proud and glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Shane Lalani from the Culinary Tourism Alliance. I'd like to thank Dave for joining us being here and Aruba for having us. I'm the research officer here. Much of my work is about destination development and curriculum development. Going to pass it over briefly to Rebecca, my colleague, to briefly introduce herself and talk about the CTA for a bit.
Yeah, nice to meet everyone. I'm Rebecca Gordon. So as Cheyenne mentioned, I am our Destination Development Officer at the Culinary Tourism Alliance. I have a background having worked in restaurants, run events, and so food is something that I'm really interested in, hence why I'm working at the Culinary Tourism Alliance. But I really hope that today's webinar gives you some ideas and practical things you can think about to enhance your festivals through food. So just in case you're not familiar with the Culinary Tourism Alliance, so we are based out of Ontario, but we're actually a national-based nonprofit, and our full focus is on growing food tourism across the country and even sometimes globally as well. So you may have heard of us through our Feast On program, which looks at certifying restaurants and events for using locally sourced Ontario food. So we have lots of different programs and events that way. We also are a member-based organization, so we have lots of different members across Ontario and Canada. We do a lot of different marketing initiatives as well, highlighting food tourism across the province. And lastly, we also do destination development as work as well, looking at strategies and seeing how we can grow food tourism. So I'll pass it over to Aruba now. Oh, you're just muted, Aruba.
Thanks, Rebecca. I'm just trying to troubleshoot. There are some people who are in the waiting room, so I'm just going to let everyone in, and I will. Okay, awesome. So hi everyone. My name is Aruba Ahmed. I am the Regional Development Advisor for Tourism for York, Durham, and Headwaters from Regional Services Branch at the Ministry of Tourism, Culture, and Gaming. Rebecca, if you want to go to the next slide. Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and I just wanted to share a little bit about RSB and the role that it plays at the provincial level, at the community level, at the local level. So Regional Services supports the delivery of many programs and provides consulting services to organizations at many different levels. We are located in 18 offices across 4 regions in the province, so Central, West, North, and East. There's a total of 52 regional development advisors, 21 of them being bilingual, and 11 are specifically focused on tourism. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And recently, RSB has increased RDAs within Central Region, which is mainly Toronto and the GTA. So we have a continued focus on that region as well. There is a QR code that links to a map that is an interactive map that you can play around with and find RDAs for both tourism and the community level in your specific regions. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah. So just building more on the role of RDAs, we support many different communities, municipalities, not-for-profits, Indigenous organizations, First Nations, and various stakeholder groups. Um, RDAs provide support in many different areas of tourism, culture, sports and rec, seniors, and accessibility. And the areas we provide support are including grant administration and program delivery. The really interesting thing about working at RSB is that we get to support many different ministries while being housed in the Ministry of Tourism, Culture, and Gaming. So, for example, we support the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility. This is to increase our support of seniors and accessibility for all community members. We support the Ministry of Francophone Affairs, which works to support and promote the interests of the Francophone community. We also support Ministry of Sport, which supports the growth of the sports sector through investments that increase tourism and provide athletes of all abilities the circumstances and opportunity to participate in sports. And of course, we provide support to our ministry, Ministry of Tourism and Culture. We work with the tourism industry, sector associations, regional tourism organizations, destination marketing organizations, to attract international investment. And this promotes the arts and the creative economy in the industry. And there are many different grant programs that we help support. And yeah, we can talk about that in a bit. Next slide, please. So from a tourism perspective, how does this all fit together? What I have learned is that there are many different players involved in what I like to call the tourism ecosystem. This connects public, private, industry, and not-for-profit entities. This information itself can be a whole other conversation with Dave. Maybe for a future FEO on the air, we can chat about broadening our understanding of this framework. But I want to quickly highlight that as we had just talked about RDAs working in many different regions all across the province, we actually directly also support the work of regional tourism organizations, or RTOs for short. And these are independent, industry-led, not-for-profits, and each of them provides leadership and coordination to support the competitive and support competitive and sustainable tourism regions. Currently, there are 11 in total across the province, and this can also be found online on the Ontario.ca website. And the tourism advisors from RSB provide connections, consulting services to support the tourism industry, but we also work very closely with DMOs and community organizations. So DMOs in all of the regions. I'm sure many of you today are actually joining from different DMOs, from destinations across different regions, and we have very close relationships with all of them. The thing I love the most about my job is we can dabble in all of the pillars of the tourism ecosystem. So, for example, providing support for marketing, for product development, workforce development, investment attractions, and partnerships are all key pillars of growing tourism in the province. And as tourism RDAs, we provide leadership and consultative support on an ongoing basis. Next slide. All right, so shifting gears a little bit, I would like to hear from all of you in the chat. On a scale of 1 to 5, what is the likelihood that you would plan your trip around food and culinary experiences? 1 being not so likely, 5 being very likely, something that's definitely top of mind. I'll give it a few seconds. Oh, great, we're already having okay, so I'm seeing a lot of 4s and 5s. So very likely, definitely. Amazing. So keep this in mind. Well, someone put a 7. That's amazing. So we're just making our own scales now. So I think this really highlights the fact that food and beverage and culinary experiences are top of mind for not just Ontarians, but all Canadians. In 2019, there was a research study that was conducted by Kayak and Open Table, and they discovered that Canadians are 38% more likely than their southern counterparts to book a trip based on culinary offerings. 28% were willing to go further. Sorry, 1 second. A lengthy drive was also no obstacle for Canadians, with 70% of the survey respondents claiming that they would travel an hour or more to eat at a restaurant on their wish list, which I think is very significant. regardless of when they made the reservation, 74% of Canadians that were surveyed said that when they were traveling, they preferred authentic local dining to something more familiar, such as a chain restaurant. So keeping that in mind, I would like to turn it over to Rebecca to share further about the role of food and culinary tourism in the broader landscape.
Thanks, Aruba. I'll be speaking to this. So I'm going to speak to visitor demand and why it's a important part of promoting culinary and ultimately holding us back to festivals. So here's some more quick stats for you. According to Destination Canada, sampling local food and drink is a top motivation for international travelers visiting Canada, regardless of the specific market they're visiting in the country. In addition, Destination Ontario has found that food festivals specifically rank as the second most popular food-related activity among travelers, just behind farmers markets. And the good news was that, as a rule of thumb, food-related activities generally ranked quite high amongst all activities by comparison. And now the other festival connection is that, according to TripAdvisor and their surveys and research, having food at events and festivals does encourage people to stay longer and spend more. Food-motivated travelers actually spend an upwards of 30% more than regular travelers, so it's great motivation and incentive to have excellent culinary product and experiences at your festival. So let's switch gears a little bit and define what exactly culinary tourism it is. What do we mean by it? So here's a quick short definition. Culinary tourism is any tourism experience where a visitor interacts with food and beverage that reflects the history, heritage, culture, and geography of a place. You may hear or encounter culinary tourism referred to as specific different ways: food tourism, gastronomic tourism. Here, generally, these are going to mean the same thing, but we're referring to it specifically through culinary tourism. I'm going to give you a few examples of the diverse range of experience and activities that culinary tourism can entail. We have everything from attending a food festival or event, of course, but then there's also apple picking at a local farm or orchard. You can visit a farmer's market. You can make maple taffy while on a winter hike. There's always having a local or seasonal goods picnic at a remote location, maybe in a conservation area. Guided fishing trips ending with a shore lunch that are prepared by a local chef using seasonal ingredients sourced locally. That always helps as well. So these are just a quick few examples of what we mean by culinary tourism. The reality is that we can't. It would take so long to define and give examples of all the types of experiences that can entail. But let's go on to who exactly culinary tourists are. And really, they're a diverse group that can include everyone from visitors that are looking for exclusive meals at high-end restaurants, what we think of as the sort of the highbrow food tourists, to those even craving street foods from local market stalls. But in general, culinary tourists are united by the fact that they're motivated by experiential travel. They want to connect meaningfully and personally with the places they visit, the cultures there through food and food-related experiences. Now, when we talk about culinary tourists, at least here at the CTA, we understand it through four main, subsects. And the first one is foodies. It's a term that I'm sure everyone here has heard. And these are the classic niche culinary tourists. They may plan some trips specifically for food and drink experiences, maybe even exclusively for those. They look for ways to incorporate local tastes into their stays wherever possible. And they also, because they plan around food and drink, they often know about the experiences that they want to have in the destinations well in advance of the arrival. They'll research it and book these food experiences ahead of time. And many foodies also overlap as cultural tourists, meaning they use food to explore, immerse themselves within local cultures. Then we have food-connected consumers. They're quite similar to foodies in some ways. They're travelers with a general interest in connecting with food, making informed food choices, and connecting with the places they visit. But the key difference is they often haven't planned all of their eating and drinking in advance. And this makes them a great market to attract spontaneously to culinary experiences, given that they may be looking for things to do when they arrive. Additionally, food-connected consumers may be primarily motivated to visit a destination as a different type of tourist. For example, you may have sports and outdoors adventure tourists who comes to a destination. They can still be food-connected consumers, their primary motivation to visit, though, not necessarily food, but outdoors. But it's another opportunity to develop new culinary experiences that overlap with these different subsets of tourism. For example, an experience that is centered on sports or outdoors tourism, but incorporates a food element, for example, hiking through a forest and ending it with fishing by a lake and a cook-off. Then we have agritourism. Now, many culinary tourists do enjoy agritourism activities. For example, the list I went over earlier had several agricultural activities, berry picking, visiting a local winery to learn about how grapes are grown and processed into wine. Agritourists are very much interested in seeing and learning where their food comes from. They also take interest in food production, heritage innovation. They want to learn about the people, places, and processes that contribute to agriculture and the agritourism sector. Finally, there's everyone else. And we say this because everyone does have to eat when they travel, and there's a lot of potential opportunity for businesses, of course, festival events, to leverage this. In essence, we like to say that anyone can become a culinary tourist. So I'm going to move forward to a key definition that's going to come up a couple of times, and it's so essential for culinary tourists who try to experience festivals that have food component. It's called taste of place. So taste of place is a memorable experience or product that brings the stories behind the food and drink of a specific geographic area to life. We like to say there's no singular taste of place for a region or destination. Each destination can instead be seen as a rich tapestry of tastes woven together. So as a example, sugar shacks are an excellent taste of place experience that visitors can find across Quebec. These businesses showcase maple syrup. It's an ingredient with a rich history and heritage in the province of Quebec in a variety of forms and iterations. For example, anyone who loves maple syrup can sample the ingredient at the sugar shacks through taffy sticks, as an ingredient in a ham, baked beans, eggs, or pancakes. And the strongest, if we move forward, the strongest taste of place experiences come from collaborations between various stakeholders along the culinary tourism value chain. So these are visitor-facing businesses that have the potential to contribute to and benefit from the development of food tourism. They include accommodations, attractions, beverage producers, cooking schools, farmers, markets, growers, producers, or artisans. There's restaurants, of course, and retailers, tour operators, technology and media companies, and of course, the reason why most of us are here today, there's festivals and events. So when we consider the culinary tourism value chain itself, festivals are powerful catalysts within this group of stakeholders and businesses, as these are curated experiences that draw locals and visitors together from near and afar. They offer a unique platform to showcase regional food, drink, and cultural identity. So by integrating local culinary talent, producers, and traditions, festivals elevate the visitor experience while serving as a marketplace and storytelling venue for local businesses. So whether focused on food or incorporating it as a part of a broader theme, festivals can amplify the visibility of a destination's taste of place and foster meaningful economic and community impacts through strategic partnerships across this value chain. As an example, a music festival can bring together any number of partners from across the culinary tourism value chain, including restaurants, growers, craft beverage producers, and retailers. And in doing so, this music festival would only add another layer of local culture and authentic taste of place to their offering. So I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca to discuss how we can enhance festivals through the incorporation of taste of place.
Yeah, so now that we all understand a little bit about what taste of place is, so it's something that we love to talk about all the time at the Culinary Tourism Alliance, because food can be just such a great connector for people and help people learn a lot more about a place and also celebrate all of the people and products that you have in your destination. So I'm just going to give a couple examples. So the Oxford County Cheese Trail, based in Oxford County, they do a really great job of incorporating taste of place. So they have a trail where there's over 30 businesses that participate, and they have some kind of a cheese product that they have on display. Visitors can go, and it's a self-guided experience, and they're able to kind of choose which places they want to go check out. But it's really great at highlighting the taste of place because it connects the visitors to the region's deep agricultural roots and dairy heritage. It's Oxford County, in case you don't know, is known as the dairy capital of Canada, and has a very rich history in cheese making, over 150 years in the making. So there's signature stops like going to Guns Hill Artisan Cheese, which is in the photo here, where people can tour and learn more about how the cheese is made. And then there's other things as well too. Like I think you can go to the restaurant 639 and they have a cheese martini. I think something like that. I'm just speaking now off the top of my head, but it's really exciting how Oxford County has been able to work with lots of different businesses in their community to pull together that cheese theme and highlight different businesses and their history. So that's a really great example of taste of place. So then if we apply that now to more of a festival or an event. So another great example would be the Kitchener-Waterloo Oktoberfest. So you're probably all quite familiar with it, but it's actually the largest Oktoberfest celebration outside of Germany. And Oktoberfest and KW does a great job of being able to celebrate the German heritage and looking at the roots of their community. So it offers beer and storytelling around beer, a lot of celebrations whether it's tapping kegs or bringing people together, but then they also incorporate not just the beverages, but also food as well, bringing in different German foods and specialties. So it really creates an immersive experience for visitors where they can almost feel like they've been transported outside of Ontario and they're celebrating in Germany. And it really, again, just highlights the strong ties that the community has to its German traditions, and it provides an authentic backdrop to enhance the festival's appeal and give visitors a compelling reason to go celebrate there. Okay, so we're going to dive now into a little bit of a group conversation. We want to hear from you how your festival, or maybe even your community, tries to reflect your taste of place in your region. And yeah, how do you incorporate local and international food into your festival? So what I think we're going to do, you can raise your hand if you want to share.
You can just unmute yourselves and jump in. Yeah, Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on mute now. Okay. So I would say Newark is like very much a melting pot of a bunch of cultures and people, and that is kind of one of our goals. So we try to stay very, very hyper local, and having that mix of culinary food trucks and tablings at all of our events, so it can apply to everyone who's actually attending. I think it's very easy to go for the quick stuff like burgers and French fries, but you can get that anytime. So we definitely make it an approach to go out and get that. Like we have an Indian food truck we've used and to get butter chicken where we never really see that, or we have authentic Mexican food trucks. And the community likes it because it's like, one is authentic to their home and their people, but it's also here in Newark where that isn't kind of regular.
The other thing, and I'm just going to jump in here if it's okay, but it's interesting you talk about food trucks, and I'm going to just use a little bit of a Oktoberfest experience from the time I was there. And we used to have a food truck weekend where we would invite 10 to 20 food trucks in, and we would challenge them to use local products and come up with a Bavarian spin on what everybody thinks of. So, using your festival or your location and then challenging them up with a special product that makes it really hyper local to you, and gives restaurants and your attendees a different taste of the region and a different spin on what they come up with is an excellent way to engage the food trucks a little bit further as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Does anyone else would anyone else like to share? Jeff?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. Hey, I'm Jeff Stewart with Food Day Canada. We have Canada's longest running national celebration of Canadian food. So this is just a perfect meeting to bring everybody together today in Elora, and I really applaud the Culinary Tourism Alliance for doing this with the ministry. We launch Food Day Canada in Elora every year. And we do that with local chefs. We bring together 20 to 25 local chefs that all focus on exactly what our last speaker said, local ingredients. So the Taste of Place begins with what's growing in your area, and then the talent of the culinary chefs and restaurants in your area, bringing that together. I mean, it's a huge event. We started off with this particular launch event in Elora with 80 people in a backyard that became 300 people the next year, which became 3,000 people the next year, which is 7,000 people last year, and will be probably 10,000 people this year in 2 weeks on July 29th. So doing exactly what Rebecca has said and what the Culinary Tourism Alliance recommends is a perfect thing for your community. People are so interested in coming out and tasting local food, and they're willing to drive as well too. So I just would applaud what's going on here. So thank you for bringing that up, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you. So Jeff Stewart is so great at being a champion for local food, and we actually have a little bit later on talking about Food Day Canada as an example. So look at that. It's so great to hear from you, Jeff. But I highly recommend, if you haven't heard of Food Day Canada or Elora's Longest Barbecue, to check it out, because they're doing some really great work around incorporating local food and celebrating it.
That's awesome. Tasha, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm Tasha. I produce a lot of different festivals, but we just had Mixto Festival this past weekend. So Mixto means mixed in Portuguese and Spanish, and it really brings that like mixed culture vibe of Toronto together. So it's very music forward, and so we always have different multicultural bands. But one of the cool things we do with the food is we often pair food vendors with the type of music we're bringing in. So if we have Colombian bands, we'll have empanadas. If we always have Brazilian bands, we have like geladonas. So we really kind of vibe on the international food scene of Toronto. And then where we're really able to get into Taste of Place is through the bar. So for many years, we've partnered with Steam Whistle. So we're at Trillium Park, so you can almost like see Steam Whistle Brewery from there. And then this year we partnered with Paradise Grapevines for the wine. So all of the wine is just made up on Geary, so maybe like 2 kilometers away. So yeah, that's a cool way that we do the Taste of Place stuff at Mixto Festival.
That's fantastic. That's so fun. I love that idea of pairing the band with the food. Sometimes when you're able to find really great food vendors too that have a little bit of creativity and fun with it, whether it's highlighting the culture or creating like naming a dish a certain way that's special based on the event, that's a really great way to get people to be like, I need to go buy that food. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, or just to really, really enjoy and absorb all that you're offering at the culture. So the festival. So that's a fantastic example. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, thanks. And one more thing I'll just throw in there is that oftentimes food vendors are great promoters, right? Like if we're trying to bring a Colombian crowd, if you're a Colombian food vendor, you probably have that network. So if you co-market, they're going to bring their crowd too. So that's like working with great food vendors has been so great for us from a marketing perspective.
Thanks so much, Tasha. That's an amazing example to share with the group. I think we'll do one more. Peter, do you want to share?
You're on mute, Peter.
You might be on mute.
Oh, there. You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, thanks. So, Toronto Garlic Festival, Peter McCluskey. So I'm trying to say something a little different from what everyone else has said, because they're doing some really amazing things. But at Toronto Garlic Festival, we invite vendors from virtually every cuisine and culture, because garlic is used in every cuisine and culture. And more than that, we invite vendors to do something just outside of what they maybe normally do at events. So an example last year was Sherry Kumi's, a Peruvian chef. something from her childhood, chow mein with a twist featuring lap chong. And it's something that I asked her to do that, but also do her big selling items, because of course vendors need to make sales. She said, Peter, that sold really well. So we try to do that kind of formula with all our vendors, because it achieves a couple of things. It helps to really spread kind of a cultural message that, hey, this culture is about more than the one thing you know from this place. There's many others. And it helps the vendors make great sales as well. And another thing we're doing this year is we're inviting chefs and bakeries who use local flour and grains to do a dish at the Garlic Festival, including desserts. Garlic desserts has always been a mainstay of the festival, but then you can share the message about how great locally ground flour is in savory and dessert items, and the health benefits that go with that.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Peter. And I think that really highlights how multifaceted all these experiences are. You can go as big or small as you want on choosing one ingredient or an entire cuisine. So yeah, that's really special. Thank you for sharing, everyone. I think we're going to move on for the rest of the presentation, but there will be more opportunities to chat, so stay tuned.
All right, so as we've heard already a little bit about Alora's longest barbecue and Food Day Canada, just again, a good example of how they've been able to incorporate local food and how they really get their food community involved by being able to engage restaurants and chefs. So chefs and restaurants are invited to participate in the event, and they really are kind of being a champion for local food. So they have the creativity to select a dish that they'd like to make, and visitors, when they come, it's a great opportunity for them to be able to purchase the dish from the chefs, but also it's a great opportunity for them to actually interact. So they did last year a coast to coast oyster tasting, and you could really kind of learn and educate along the way. So food can be a really great way to connect people to their community, but also an educational tool so people learn a little bit more about the food system, but in a fun way. Okay, so one of the really big things, so I think everyone's shared some fantastic examples of Taste of Place, and you're kind of already doing all that work to try and incorporate local and the different cultures of your community. But then it's just really important, if you're doing all that work, that you're making sure that you're actually telling that story. So that can sometimes be the hardest things that I find working with different festivals and businesses and events, is that they don't know where to begin. So we have 3 things that we always say to look at, talking about the purpose, people, and place. So really, storytelling can bring a festival to life by connecting the food and drink to the people, land, and culture behind them. So when you feature Taste of Place as part of storytelling, you can create meaningful experiences that leave lasting impressions. And this creates a bit of an emotional connection that enriches the visitor experience and inspires them to share stories with others, whether it's organically or amplifying your festival's reach through word of mouth and social media. So when we talk about purpose, people, and place, so purpose is really about making sure that you're telling visitors what makes the food and drink at your festival or event unique. So this will encourage them to care about the event, to want to go visit, to want to taste the food. So really try and think about what it is that makes what you're offering special and find a way to be able to convey that. Then with people, so people can be a huge ambassador and advocate for what you have, but when visitors go to visit a place, they really want to get to know the people that are there, that are a part of it. So at a festival, if you're promoting it, it's really great to maybe highlight the people behind the different food businesses that are there. So whether it's, you have a fall festival and you're having like some jam competition, maybe highlighting some of the people that are creating the jam and their story and what got them started, or Taste of Asia, highlighting some of the different chefs that you have there and why a certain dish is important to them that they're serving. Really talking about the people behind the food can really help add a lot more depth to what's being served. And then places is important in the world of tourism. And so really, I think that our previous examples, whether it was Oktoberfest or Oxford County, really highlighted how to incorporate place in, but sharing and talking about what is special about your place and how food is connected to it. So that can, all three of those things, when they come together, can really help create your taste of place story. So then, where does storytelling happen? So a lot of the time we think about storytelling as being something that's done verbally, but that's not necessarily the case. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that. So it can be done digitally when you're promoting the event or during the event through social media or your websites, through blogs and newsletters. But then on-site is just as important as well. So thinking about things like your menus, the decor that you have, your signage, when you're developing those, do they highlight your taste of place and incorporate kind of your theme there? So this is a picture of the Richmond Night Market. Just we can see here they have lots of lovely, beautiful colors, but they have different dragons and lanterns hanging. And that really helps people when they go visit to feel like they're celebrating the culture and really adds to that experience. And so there's lots of different ways that you can add to the decor. And Dave, I see that you have your hand up. Do you want to share a little bit as well?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in on your storytelling and your slides before. One of the good things to do as well is using influencers and bloggers. Bringing them in ahead of your festival, sharing some of the restaurants that you're going to be using, some of the chefs you're going to be using, sharing some of the food trucks you're going to be using, so that they can do some advanced look into and really use it as a marketing tool for your festival. And if you're paying for this service, you want to make sure that you're getting the wordage that you're paying for. You want to make sure that you're getting the bang for your buck. So also invite them to your festival so that they can highlight it for next year, so you've got that firsthand experience what happened at the festival the year before and what you can come to expect. Because like we're all talking about, food becomes such an important part of the festival experience. And I'm thinking of Oktoberfest, I think of my favorite place to go for a schnitzel on a bun, or I think of my favorite place to go for a sausage on a bun, or an apple strudel, and who's got the best combination of all of those things. And you end up going to all different places just based on your food memory and recollection of the past. And a lot of times when I think of food festivals or I think of events or anything, it's always that taste of place that gets me going and gets my thoughts going and gets me excited. Like if I'm going to Ottawa, I think about a beaver tail, or if I'm going to Port Dover to Friday the 13th, I'm going to have perch and I'm going to have celery bread, and it's those memories that you tie together. And I think influencers and vloggers are a great marketing tool and a piece of your story for storytelling as well.
That's a great example. Thank you for sharing that. That's a good tip. Even sometimes developing a little bit of a media kit when you're bringing in influencers where you highlight some of the stories already there can be really useful as well too, because sometimes when you're bringing in someone external, it can be hard for them to uncover those taste of place stories. So if you have them written down, it's really easy then for whether it's a journalist or an influencer to be able to pick up on those and see those underlying stories and dig them a little bit deeper and share them with more people. All right. So then just moving on a little bit as well too. So we talked about incorporating local into your festivals. So in case you are struggling, you don't know where to begin, we do have at the Culinary Tourism Alliance our Feast On program, which certifies experiences and restaurants who are purchasing Ontario food. They go through an audit system where we verify that they are in fact bringing in a certain percentage of Ontario food onto their menus. But that could be a great way for you to potentially identify different restaurants that you maybe want to work with, to who are already kind of doing that work in local food, and be really easy to incorporate them in. Other ways you can look as well too, whether it's Foodland Ontario with their local food seasonality map. If you need to identify certain foods and you need to educate your food vendors that you have on what's local, that can be a good tool to get people started. There's also lots of different food products that now have the Ontario Made logo on them. So those are for products that are food products, or any product that's manufactured in Ontario, but that can be really great for identifying maybe different beverages and different products as well too. All right, so I think I'm going to pass it over to Cheyenne.
Thanks, Rebecca. So as you've heard from Rebecca and so many others who've spoken, local food has the potential to bring festivals to life, and it does a great job at it, but it also takes strong partnerships to make that happen. And so we think it's important to review some best practices for working with food vendors and supporting them. And we're going to start with recruiting. So if you're approaching a restaurant to take on a food vendor role at a festival, it's important to recognize that they're often going to be short-staffed and have limited capacity on weekends and around the holidays. Adding on a food vendor role can sometimes be a little bit of a logistical challenge for them. So for these reasons, it's important to make it as easy as possible for them to participate in your festival. Some ways to do that are, one, providing ample lead time, maybe 4 months or even a little more between the time you approach the vendor and the date of the festival, to allow the food business to prepare and make the necessary arrangements to participate gainfully and smoothly. Another way would be, well, it's more a tip, I guess. Restaurants, food vendors, they, as a rule of thumb, tend to prefer in-person meetings or phone calls, often easier for them than email, a little more conducive that way. So one tip could be to go to the restaurant itself to discuss this partnership opportunity. And finally, limiting the amount of paperwork required to participate wherever possible. So they'll definitely have to complete certain documents like contracts. They'll have to provide their menus, etc. But creating a shorter application process, or whatever's in the control of the festival organizer, whatever you can do to make that shorter does help the vendor ultimately. So the next best practice we have for partnering is navigating food safety. So it's important, well, food safety is critical, so it's important to contact local public health agencies early to learn regulations and mitigate the risk of any last-minute challenges or issues. It's important to remember that every municipality, region approaches food safety regulations at festivals and events differently. So work consistently and early with local public health officials to obtain up-to-date information about the regulations, and share this with vendors when you make contact with them. Usually each vendor will have to submit forms to the local public health organization to participate in an offsite event. And then the public health organization would determine whether safety regulations are met, would approve the application, and would also likely be on site on the day of the event to ensure the regulations are being followed. So best practice is to prepare a compliance checklist outlining required documentation, sanitization standards, and equipment needed, for example, hand washing stations, refrigeration. This would support vendors in making sure that that their operation on your festival site goes as smoothly as possible. And supporting vendors through this process minimizes risk and ensures a smoother event day ultimately. And next, we have planning for uncertainty. So there are going to be some factors that are a little less predictable and a little harder to plan for. Festivals are dynamic environments, so weather can shift quickly, crowd size can be higher than anticipated sometimes. Logistical challenges can arise. So it's important to help vendors prepare by providing estimated attendance numbers and some guidance on traffic flow, queuing, and security protocols. You can also offer coaching on creating efficient, quick-to-serve menus that minimize wait times and adapt well to outdoor or high-volume conditions. And all of this is important because a well-prepared vendor well-supported vendor is going to be a more successful partner than one who's not supported. Then we have the important concept of demonstrating value. And for this, I'm going to pass it over to Dave to consider, to talk us through using his expertise some of these points.
And it's one thing that we always like to do whenever you're working with somebody is a partnership, right? It's what's in it for us and what's in it for your partner. You want to be making sure that their ROI is there at the end of the day. So, you know, a lot of times you're selling space at your festival, and you've got to think, is it better to have this food truck or this vendor on site to draw people in, and give him the space, knowing that we're going to bring more people in through our gates? Or do you come up with a solution where it's a cost sharing? You know, maybe it's a cashless event, so you're going to come up with tickets or coupons that your people can use to buy food or drink, and maybe it's a $10 ticket. Your vendor gets $7 of that, and the organizers keep $3. Just different options on how you can add value and how you can make sure that you know, everybody is part of the process. The other thing is you're providing marketing for those vendors as well, and you know, include them in your marketing programs, and have them include you as part of their marketing program. You know, whether they're a vendor at a local farmers market, that have them tell their patrons that they're going to be at the Oktoberfest, or they're going to be at Hillside Festival in Guelph. You know, look at it as a joint partnership and make sure that everybody is getting something out of what they put in. The other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to lead your vendors on. You don't want to give them false information. So, you know, I think the old adage of under promise and over deliver is always the best way to go. Make sure that you're doing some sort of tracking so that you can show the value that you're adding to your vendor. And again, think of them as partners. Everybody's in it to win. And like I said earlier, when you get the combination just right, it's a win-win for everybody, because they think of that food vendor, they think of your event, and it's marked on the calendar as, I've got to go back there next year because that was just a great experience. So I think the partnership is definitely the way to go, and just finding that unique balance is, you know, maybe you have to charge a vendor's fee, but you know, what is the right price? And then, you know, food trucks and restaurants are going through what all of us are going through with the, you know, the high costs of food, the shortage of labor, you know, the cost to transport goods, security, and everything else. So, you know, we're all going through it together, and if we all want to survive and thrive, you know, I think it's in our best interest to work together and make sure that we're doing it fair and equitably. Next slide. And again, I just kind of talked about that, some of these tips and takeaways for the cost. So yeah, it's you have to really work on what's the best value, and how are you going to do that so that it's a win-win for everybody. That's sort of my best practice model. Just sort of throw it out for anybody else that might have questions or takeaways on how they work with suppliers or vendors in their regions or areas.
Yeah, Dave, thank you.
I see some tags that people are getting hungry. That's a good sign.
Yeah, that's a great sign. Yeah, so I wanted to open it up to the audience to ask all of you, what are your tips and takeaways for tracking performance metrics and attendance at festivals? This is always a very important part of hosting events and festivals, especially when we're thinking about partnerships and sponsorships. And I'm wondering if, Tom, you'd like to jump in. You can introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Tom from the research manager for RTO6, Central Counties Tourism, and it's it's always hard. I mean, the last question there, you don't really need to have the word festivals in there. Like, how do you track performance metrics and attendance at any tourism destination, really? So I collect a lot of research for our region. So we do a lot of mobility data, so geofencing, and also we look at postcode analysis through our partnership with Destination Canada and Environics Analytics. So for festivals, like that's always hard. We have done in the past geofencing, so mobility data for a festival or event. The challenge is that to get enough of a sample size, you need a large enough area and length of time. So if you have a festival that's like in a parking lot for one day or in a park, you might not have enough of a sample. So that's unfortunately one of the limitations with that. And it's kind of a hit and miss. So I found some kind of workarounds to expand the area to kind of work some magic, but a really better way that's for tracking attendance at a festival and event is looking at postal codes. If there's a way you can collect a postcode, either have it as a ticket event, or if it's not a ticket event, have it as some sort of incentive. So for a ticket event, for example, Vaughan International Film Festival, we've been working with them for 5 years. They collect their postal code data from their visitors. I do the analysis, and we found out that their attendees are actually also interested in art. So then they partnered up with the local art gallery, McMichael, and also local artists, and they had an art installation pop up at their last film festival. So it's not just talking about film, but now the visitors are talking about film, and they're also talking about art, and then having that collaboration with the artist and the art gallery to have a louder voice. So that's really one way. Another way we've seen in the past is Ajax has a Pumpkinville festival. And what they do, they got sponsorship from TD Bank to get free pumpkins. So what they did is they gave out free pumpkins, but if you want free pumpkin, you need to provide your postal code. So just like any sort of incentive, we also have a program in our region for doing surveys. So having intercept surveys, but of course you need volunteers, and that just requires more work on the organizer's side. But like I said, the example with collecting the postcodes from a pumpkin incentive, like that's a great way of getting people to get their postal codes. And then the postcode data will really tell us, are you a local, how far you're traveling, or are you a tourist, and what the demographics look like, so you can better target that audience in the future. So we've done work with Vaughan International Film Festival, the Orangeville Blues and Jazz Festival. We just finished some reporting for them. So we worked with a lot of different stakeholders to try and get information and understand who's coming so we can better target them for future events. And of course, I know it's all weather dependent, but at least we're able to kind of do our due diligence to see who's coming. If there are more tourists or more locals, we can use that information for funding as well too, for grant applications, and just understand like where people are coming from.
Awesome.
So there's a lot of information. I can talk for hours, but I want to keep it short. And then if there's any question, anyone can always email me as well too.
Thank you, Tom. Those are some really important insights. And I'm sure as festival and event organizers, we're constantly thinking about numbers, how to refine our data, and how to tell that story. So I think that was very timely. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
I see a couple of other hands up. Peter, you had your hand up. Would you like to jump in?
Yeah. So regarding collecting stats, we do a survey to our vendors right after the event every year, and we try to collect. We've added more questions to it last year. So we, for example, asked. We try to get a sense of how many sales they made, but we also try to get a sense of what sort of collaborations or partnerships they've formed or met with people that could potentially be partnerships. And those could be partnerships with other vendors who were at the festival, and also with people who came into the festival or maybe in an industry. They're not just there as a personal visitor, but they may be some kind of business. Another thing too was someone made the point about making vendors partners. So last year, a lot of our vendors sold out because we had double the number of visitors we expected. And those returning vendors may think, oh, I should bring that much more product this year because I sold out by 2:00 last year. But we want to let these vendors know what we're planning, which is that we may have additional vendors at the festival this year, and share that information with our returning vendors so they can plan accordingly. So they can know at least as much as we do that. Hey, we had this many vendors selling saving food last year. It'll be this many more this year, and plan accordingly. Don't just think you're going to sell twice as much this year because you're sold out by 2 p.m. last year.
Thank you for sharing, Peter. We really appreciate your valuable experience. I think someone else has their hand up. Kieran?
Hello. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself? Maybe like your name, your organization?
Yeah. Okay. I'm Kiran Rola, and I'm a chef. Just won the fan favorite chef award from Restro Canada RC show. It's a great start for me, 2025, and love to connect with all of you here. So, how much time we have? I have a lot of things, but again, I just wanna say less.
Yeah.
So that's
Go ahead. Yeah, you can share your comments.
okay.
There's a couple of
So
other people who are going to jump in, but yeah, please feel
yeah.
free.
First of all, I would say thanks to all of you for this. And yeah, Ontario GTA is a great place to connect with people with food, culture, celebrations. And I had a lot of good experiences because as a chef, I connected with so many culinary enthusiasts and positive people who are spreading love through food in our communities. And I explored a lot of food here. People are actually encouraging here to connect you with the food and culture. So it's been 9 years for me in Canada, and I'm a citizen now, chef now, won the award, made some connections already. I live in downtown Mississauga, where Celebration Square is here. In summers, we have events every weekend. But some things I really want to request that it should be more uh, easy for the vendors if we want to celebrate. Like, I am a chef, so there are some events like Bollywood Monster Mashup or something. So I inquired for the as a vendor to sell my food items or something. But the reply I got is we can't give for first timer. Then I was like, so what's the option? I wanna start from somewhere. Maybe my husband suggested me do collab with someone who's already existing. So yeah, makes sense. And sometimes the vendor fees is also very high. I mean, I need some help. I just fired from my job again. I'm positive. I'll find something else. I have that stamina. I have that skills, culinary skills. I love food. I love feeding people, nourishing communities. There are a lot of things happening. Apps are there, online cooking, Cook Unity. I can see on LinkedIn. People are getting new concepts. Supper Club in Toronto. Wow. So yeah, I'm not giving up because I fired so many times, but that's okay. I'm not focusing on negative
Yeah.
anyways. Canada gave me so much love. I won the fan favorite award, $500 cash, and so much love on that day. I met with
Thank
Chef
you, Kieran.
Joe's Andres, right? I met with Chef Joe's Andres. So yeah, I love Canada, and people are very friendly.
Awesome.
They gave you
Thank you,
opportunity to
Kieran.
grow up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, your story highlights the importance of food and how it brings people together, and also how it creates opportunity for
Yes.
for people in their lives. So yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. Dave, I think you
Thank
wanted to say something.
Yeah, I've got 2 points. The first one I'll make is the other thing to think about with the food is don't forget about your drink and partnering with whether it's a local craft brewery or a local winery or a cider maker or peach juice if you're a peach festival. Those pairings and combinations, while another way to draw people in, is another good challenge to your food vendors to create pairings with the different products, and it's a way to stretch your market a little bit further. And the other point I was going to make, and it's probably a whole other subject onto itself, but is sustainability and using the products from within a 50-kilometer radius or whatever, and thinking about your carbon footprint and We have a festival that's a member of ours, Hillside in Guelph, who is probably the premier sustainability model in the country. I would hazard to say, they don't have any paper product. You bring your own dishes. They have wash stations set up, and while it's a unique music festival, people think of it just as much for its food and beverage offerings as they do for the music. So that's the sustainability element can be another marketing and draw to get people in and get people engaged. So something else to maybe think about down the road as we look at these topics that come up. Sustainability is a very good one.
And
Sorry, Hillside. I'm having microphone problems. I apologize. But it's Hillside Festival in Guelph. Yeah, if you get in touch with any of us, we can put you in connection with them.
And I think that's a great point that you brought up about sustainability. And so sourcing local food and beverages is a great way to show that you're being more sustainable. But another great example, though, are that there are companies out there that do sustainable, reusable plates and cutlery and cups, whether it's Friendlier or Muse. And that can be another way as well, too, to show your values. And even thinking through when you have your menu, making sure that you have food products that are accessible for everyone with their diets. So we're seeing so many more people prefer to eat vegetarian or vegan. So making sure you actually have options for them as well too is very important. So that way you're keeping everyone happy, and you're making sure that people aren't walking out without having been able to purchase food because they haven't found something that suits them. So just another tip there.
I think that brings us to the conclusion of the formal part of this presentation. We now would like to, we've been having a great conversation throughout, which I really appreciate everyone's participation. If there are any questions, comments, anything that you want like further information on from either from Dave or from Rebecca and Cheyenne or myself, please feel free to unmute or drop it in the chat, and we will be able to answer those questions. Any comments, any experiences. Yes, this is really your time where we'd love to hear from you. I actually had a question. Oh, okay. Ashley, yes.
Sorry, I had to agree for the muting, and I apologize. Thank you so much for this. This was absolutely amazing and fantastic. I really appreciated it. I had to briefly jump off. Duty called for a second there, but again, fantastic job. One thing that we're dealing with as a DMO, and again, apologies if this was brought up, but one of our major things is because we also offer that Host in Vaughan grant. So we do provide funding for festivals and events to be run in the city of Vaughan. But one of the biggest challenges that we have as a DMO is that sort of metric tracking, because obviously there gets to be a certain point where trying to verify those numbers at the end of the day does have to have some level of importance for accountability. And so understanding kind of different opportunities for those tracking metrics. We are currently in a procurement stage with trying to understand basically using technology to try and help us do those sort of counts at events. But I just also wanted to see if there was any other knowledge about technology or ways that we can kind of help our festivals and events do that sort of tracking perspective, if there's technology or other recommendations.
Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Tom, Dave?
Well, I mean, Ash, we've talked before, so it's Ash is in our region as well. So we mostly just use geofencing postal codes. Those are really kind of the best ways to find out what's the mix of locals versus tourists, where they're coming from, and so forth. There are limitations with the geofencing, but it's always hard. Trackers, they would also record people coming in and out. Intercept surveys are great, but they require work on people. So it's a lot of work every time, Ash. You know that.
and that's kind of
Yeah,
where
and a
we're in
lot of
this
expense as well.
stage. Sorry, Dave, please repeat that.
No, it's a lot of expense as well. I mean,
Agreed.
as Tom can tell you, that data collection doesn't come cheap.
No, and that's one of the challenges that we have as well, just because, we want to be able to help our festivals and events to grow. And part of that is kind of helping them track those metrics to understand exactly where those people are coming from. But if they're a community activation trying to grow, and they maybe only see 400 people, like you said, it's very, very costly for them and impossible at that point, and not worthwhile. So we're, from a DMO perspective, trying to understand what opportunities there might be to do so. So just throwing that out there, because that's a challenge that we're having, in a way that we as a DMO can try and help our festivals and events, whether they're large or small. So if any other DMOs or other groups have had thoughts or experiences, I'll drop my email in the chat. I'm super happy to chat about it.
Thanks, Ash. That was and I think that's like the takeaway that I would like for everyone from this time, is to keep the conversations going, to make those connections, and to get familiar with other players in your region, but also in adjacent regions, because I think collaboration is really the spirit of what will make our events and our festivals even better. I think Tasha has her hand up.
Yeah, I'll start by saying to Ashley's question, a way I've seen counting happen more on a budget is like doing counts. So I know some farmers markets will say, guests are going to be here for an hour, and they'll go through and just do a count every hour on the hour. Or at a festival that's more grassroots, it's like, okay, people are going to be here for 3 hours, and they'll do it that way. Or having volunteers at the entrance just doing counts once an hour to kind of track traffic that way. So I can send you an email to kind of go into how I've seen people do that tracking. But my question was, I think it's kind of come up quite a few times around like financial constraints around doing these types of events. And then I think there's like great ideas like muse and reusable dishes. And it's like hard to kind of implement those things without putting the cost on the vendors. And we've also talked about fair prices for vendors. So I'm curious, since we have so many great people on this call, if there are any insights to funding opportunities in the upcoming year that are going to be directed at culinary opportunities, and or if there's like a list somewhere that we could access.
I think one of the challenges is that there tends to never really or like it's very hard to find culinary tourism focused funding. It just generally becomes the general tourism funding. So I don't have any suggestions right now, but if I do, I will make sure I'll share with everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Tasha. Yeah, I think from a funding perspective, there are different levels of funding, from municipal, federal, provincial, and as Ash mentioned, there, like, even DMOs themselves have like partnership funds, and maybe there isn't necessarily something that's specifically for culinary tourism, but in the broader tourism landscape, I think there definitely is opportunity to apply for grants that have a culinary focus. I can speak for Experience Ontario, which is the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Gaming's grant that supports festival and events. And we have an intake coming up later in the fall, and you keep an eye out for guidelines and information on that. I think that's always a great way to, if your organization hasn't applied for grants before, as RDAs, we provide consulting services on walking you through that process. So whether it's Natasha or to anyone else on this call, like, please feel free to reach out, and I can always give you more information on the grants that the ministry offers.
Thank you.
Oh, Tom, you have your hand up. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure if we're raising hands or not.
Yeah.
And sorry, just to add to Tasha's point, counting people, or even like using drones to take a screenshot of how many people I'm counting, or doing all that kind of math, that's great as well. But like, I really want to push, if you're able to collect a postcode, like, there's so much information you can get, especially for all the grants. They want to know how many tourists versus how many locals. So the data we are able to do is count the number of locals and the number of tourists and the percentage, not exact count, but just an estimate. And just last thing I want to say, I have my email in the chat earlier, and we work with anyone in Ontario, so it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in our region, but we're happy to help because people go travel everywhere. So we just want to increase tourism and visitor economy as a whole.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, thanks, Corral, in the chat. I'm just going to read out one of the comments that my fellow RDA from North Region. She had said that there are other funding that is not specific to tourism, but could be helpful depending on the focus. For example, seniors traveling through the Seniors Community Grant Program under the Francophone Community Grant Program, if it is focused on Franco culture and sharing Francophone culinary experiences as an example. So yeah, those are some great ideas. Thank you, Corral. Peter, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, just so regarding the collecting of postal codes, and we did use some, I guess it was some kind of geofenced thing that was able to learn people's postal codes from their cell phones. So while they were attending the festival last year, it cost, I forget now, $1,500. But an old-fashioned way is just using doing an intercept. I think it's called an intercept vendor survey. So it's a piece of paper, and we hire someone to stop at least 200 or 300 visitors during the course of the day. And I think the key is you don't have to ask everyone to have something that's statistically significant. You just need a certain percent of your overall audience to then project and say, okay, based on this, on these 300 or so respondents, we can say that of all of our visitors, so many are coming from this postal code, so many are coming from that postal code. The other key thing is to make it as, what's the word, objective or scientific as possible. We tell our people doing the visitor survey to don't just walk up to people who are smiling. Don't go up to people who are your age or otherwise, like draw a circle in the pavement. And if someone walks through that circle, that's the person you approach. Someone mentioned the idea of giving away a pumpkin, but the challenge with that is that you may be skewing your results because maybe it's only people who have a car who are going to want to get a pumpkin to carry home. You might be missing out on other people, people who don't like pumpkins or other things. So making it as objective as possible. For years, we used volunteers to do our surveys, and we realized we just need to hire one person. And we explain to them how it works some days beforehand and give them their pile of survey papers and tell them to conduct the survey over the whole course of the day, because that also is going to be representative of more representative of your total visitor count.
Yeah, those are some really important insights, and I'm sensing that there's there's a lot of interest on research and just collecting data. So maybe this will be a future webinar or an FEO on the air with Dave. Stay tuned. Yeah, let's keep the conversation going. I think there's a couple more hands up. Debbie, would you like to join the chat?
Hi, so I'm Debbie with Festivals and Events Ontario. Ashley was asking about how to track things, and we had a speaker at our conference last February, Asif Khan from Ground Level Marketing, who talked about this particular issue. We also did a Zoom meeting with him. And I just put the link in there, and it'll describe a lot about what he does and how he does it. So that's for anybody. And if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or email me. I put my email in there.
Thank you, Debbie. Who else? I think there's a couple people have their hand up. Tom, did you want to jump in quickly?
Yeah, so I just want to go back to Peter's comment. Yes, Peter. So the pumpkin example, that was for a Pumpkinville festival around Thanksgiving. So kind of assuming people usually want pumpkins and they can get a free pumpkin, I think that's even better there. And of course, like there's always limitations, and what you're talking about, Peter, with that's part of market research. Like you got to know how to who to conduct, how you're going to do your sampling, and all that information. So there's a lot of limitations to that. And our postcode analysis, I mean, yes, there is a fee, but that fee starts at $250. So like we're not charging like $1,500, which is just crazy. Like data is expensive, but again, we're here to help grow the visitor economy, regardless if they're in our region or not. So like I said, our rates for postcode analysis, it's $250 outside of our region. So I think that's really affordable for most people. For most organizations, really gives you a good breadth of information of who to target, what they look like, and what's the percentage of locals versus tourists. And Tiffany, you mentioned ground level insights there. There are some limitations with them. I honestly just prefer our data, not to be a salesman or anything, but just it's a lot more transparent what we're doing. So that's my limitation with their work. But that's it.
Yeah, that's a great perspective,
Thank you.
Tom. I really appreciate that. Anna, you have your hand up?
Thank you. Yes, so I mentioned in the comments that I am very interested in learning if anyone here has or can share any metrics that go beyond economic impact. So thank you so much actually for the seniors and the Francophone community, mentions there, because that's lovely. And specifically, I was wondering if anyone here has done anything in relation to food sovereignty for Indigenous communities, or any type of activity related to food security for local groups where the events take place and those local groups can benefit from, or if there's any other best practice, say public transportation use or discount or anything along those lines. That's something I'm very interested in learning if anyone here can share. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Anna. We actually have a couple of my fellow tourism RDAs on the call with us, and I would recommend getting familiar with who the tourism RDA in your region is, and they will be able to connect you with other folks and other industry orgs that might be able to answer those questions. So Tiffany just dropped the link to the RDA map in the chat, and we love to say that as RDAs, we're connectors, and even if we don't know the information personally, we will find out for you.
Thank you. And I should have probably said that I am actually, I am research and strategic manager at one of your RTOs, and my RA is here, and he's wonderful. And so I'm just reaching beyond that. Yes. So I am a research person. And so these are the type of measurables that I'm after that, are up and coming. And this is a national gathering. And so I figured that's why I would ask that. Thank you.
Those are very important perspectives, Anna. Thank you for bringing them to the table. I think we have a little bit more time if there's anyone else who would like to jump in. But I had a broader question for the group, but for also Cheyenne, Rebecca, and Dave. What do you see as future trends in culinary tourism, in the culinary sector? Are there anything on the horizon that we should keep an eye out for?
Well, I mean, I think with everything going on south of the border, that the buy local, support local, travel in your area, stay in your area. There's so much to discover in Ontario, whether it's hopping from city to city for festivals and events. And when you go somewhere, whether you're going to a festival for 4 or 5 hours, there's so much more to do in a community, whether it's an attraction or, a restaurant or a winery to extend your stay, which is important to all of us. I just think, the moment is upon us. We sort of were through this with COVID and it's coming around again, but I think it's a real opportunity for us to really showcase Ontario, to fellow Canadians, and to our American friends who do travel up here with an additional 40% on their dollars. So
those are fantastic points. I was gonna just jump in and say I think so. We're all still recovering from COVID a little bit, so it's hard to think about like something innovative when I know we're all just trying to survive still. But festivals and food, everyone's trying so hard and so passionate, which is really great. One of the things that we're seeing in culinary tourism when we do demographic research is that the younger generations really want a lot of immersive experiences, whether it's something hands-on that they can do, or like be able to like feel like they're escaping somewhere. So I think what we're going to see a lot more of with culinary tourism and with food events and festivals is seeing more opportunities for maybe people to participate in hands-on workshops around food, or having, I think, more of that, being strategic and smart around your decor and your signage to be able to create really immersive and memorable experiences for people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And all of our surveying and everything that we're seeing as well is that people are willing to pay for that special experience, that VIP, the behind the scene, the something special, the meet and greet the chef, or whatever it is. You know, you think the youth of today don't have a lot of money, but they'll pay for that special experience where they can get those photos and, you know, Instagram posts that nobody else has. And it really is, it's all about experience.
Well, I guess if there is no other burning questions, I would like to thank everyone for joining, for engaging, for participating, and for bringing your great energy and just your enthusiasm for tourism, for food, for culinary experiences. And as we've chatted about in the last hour, it's all interconnected. And the more we have these conversations, I think it'll just get more and more refined as time goes on and as our relationships get stronger. This recording will be available on Festival and Events Ontario's YouTube page in the next couple of days. Stay tuned for that. I think everyone who signed up through the Teams link will actually get a copy of this webinar recording straight to their inboxes afterwards. So it's going to be a great resource for everyone. And I'd like to personally thank Cheyenne, Rebecca, and Dave for being such amazing co-hosts and for bringing their experience and their knowledge, and yeah, just their passion for tourism. And I am so thrilled with this morning.
Well, from Festival and Events Ontario, you know, I think we're all stronger when we work together, and this is a great example of that. So thank you for everybody coming together and joining the conversation.
Thanks for listening to FEO on the Air, the voice of festivals and events in Ontario.